Oh, welcome to another edition of What's So Funny, the show that probes the brains, the minds, the psyches, and the brains of the people who make the funny. Well, the excitement over Brent Butt's return to What's So Funny has been palpable, folks. Palpable. Well, at least that's what someone tweeted about someone's Facebook post regarding something someone pinned. Anywho, let's hope Brent brings it tonight, because the What's So Funny contract is up for renewal. No pressure, though. Just have fun with it. And now a man who has no clue what he will ask Brent about. Your host and MC, Mr. Guy McPherson. Guy?
Thank you. Brent always brings it.
I know.
Isn't that right, Brent?
Well, now it's a lot of pressure. I was just going to coast. You saw me taking my shoes off.
Yeah.
And now I've got to lace up and get my head in the game.
Get in the game, but you were here 7 years ago.
And I did so well, they had me back
right away
as fast as they could.
It was to this month, too. It's December. Is that your downtime, December?
It is.
You're available every 7 years in December.
Have taken, when I can, I try and take December off. And I've had some good years. I've been able to take December off.
Oh, you're a big Christmas guy?
Well, it's just there's a lot to do. And you know, I work very hard throughout the rest of the year. And really, you know, all that I have to do in December would be like crummy corporate stand-up gigs. And I'm fortunate enough right now that I don't have to chase those down. I don't have to say yes to every horrible situation that comes down the pike.
So you do some corporate gigs still, but they're not the horrible ones. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. They're usually pretty good. Christmas gigs are notoriously bad gigs, and I don't know who thought. And listen, I'm not trying to kneecap anybody's gravy train here, but the consensus among most comics is that there's something especially strange and weird and sick about doing comedy at a corporate Christmas show, partly because everybody's tanked, right? Normally these corporate events, they're rather well behaved. The boss is there, and it's, you know, the shows I do is usually some kind of a convention. They're there to learn about something. It's a sham to, you know, get out of town for a couple of days. But at the Christmas ones, everybody's tanked. They're wanting
much like a comedy club.
Get their stuff off their chest. But the saving grace of a comedy club is always that it's your turf.
Right.
They're coming to your turf, and there's something psychologically important about that, as opposed to you're on their turf, they've invited you to their thing, and you're the outsider. You're already the freak, right? So now you're the outsider freak. Let's get them.
Feeling a little odd on the podium and not knowing how they're going to take to you.
The sound, you know, the sound isn't generally good. The lighting isn't good. They haven't put a lot of thought into it because they have there's a lot of other stuff to take care of. Joke boys, they'll way down on their list.
You know, I've been to a few Christmas parties in my life. Never once have we had any form of entertainment, let alone stand-up comedian. I'd love to be at that Christmas party.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, they're good gigs to get when you're struggling, you're hand to mouth. You know, you don't make a lot of dough as a greasy nightclub comic at the best of times. And so December can be a time when you go, all right, I can, you know, there's a lot of these gigs, and they usually pay a little bit better than the normal gigs. So you can, you know, you're not going to say no to them. You're going to take them. But at the same time, you're like, they're generally not fun gigs to do. But that's why they pay more. Isn't that the way life goes?
You know, not everybody loves their job.
You know,
right?
You get paid more if something isn't entertaining, and if you enjoy it, then you know why get paid so much money? You're enjoying it.
And if there's risk to your body, then you get paid more.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
Psychological.
That's why it's important. If you enjoy your job, don't seem like you're having a good time at work. Be a miserable, dirty dog, right?
So you have the upper hand when you go and ask for the raise?
Yeah, so that they'll pay you more because they go, well, he doesn't like being here. I think we've We've all learned a little something here tonight. Can I go now? Am I done?
You are on top of your game.
This has been a terrific bit of, what was that, 90 minutes?
It feels like it. No, Brent, what are we, like a few minutes in?
Oh, good.
We plan on going all night with you now that we have you locked in the room.
All right.
What have you been up to the last 7 years? Wait, last time you were here, it was right after your big Corner Gas Christmas show in season 3.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. How many seasons did Corner Gas run?
We did 6 seasons, 107 episodes.
Oops.
We're playing footsie under the table. It's a little romantic. It's late at night. Anything goes on the radio. Yeah, 6 seasons, 107 episodes.
107, and then you pulled the plug,
I said that's plenty of episodes.
sending everyone to the unemployment line.
That's right. I always contended throughout this when people said, "Don't you feel bad that some people are going to be out of work now?" I said, "Look, I didn't tell anybody to get into show business. I would feel bad if I said, look, quit the law school and decide to become a key grip. And I personally will make sure you're employed for the rest of your life." But that was never the situation.
You know, that's why I didn't have much sympathy for Conan O'Brien when he lost the Tonight Show. Yeah, it was unfair, and it sucked for him, but hey, the expression, that's showbiz.
Yeah.
There's no guarantees.
Exactly.
Right.
This is, you're going to work for a giant conglomerate who answers to shareholders, and they have a bottom line, and they're going to do things that are horrible and despicable now and then. You got to know that going in. But that doesn't mean you also can't point it out. You also, I think that was a pretty ugly scenario, but I think he should be able to point out, well, this is pretty greasy, what you're doing.
I don't know, though.
Why?
I don't know.
Why can't you point it out?
Well, he was given, what was he given, a year? Let's rehash this. How many years old is this? But he was given it.
Current. I'm still upset about Jack Parr. Let's iron out that
He left
wrinkle.
on his own. Conan was given a year, and it didn't work, and they moved on. Now, they should have given him more time like they did with his previous time slot. Granted. But, how long did Pat Sajak last? How long did they give Pat Sajak?
Well, that was a whole different thing. That was building a shop from scratch, right? And it was the whole Pat Sajak pitch to do this thing.
Yeah.
Conan's coming in to drive the bus that already exists. It's on the tracks, right? And then basically the old driver come back and said, "Listen, my other bus isn't working so good. I want this bus back."
Well,
so they got to give him the shove.
That's what I think is.
That's what was greasy about it.
Is wrong is that they went to the old driver and said, "Hey, would you come back?"
Well,
because his
new bus was tanking. His new bus had. Let's see how long we can keep this analogy between the ditches. Let's keep this on the right side of the road. Yeah. So it was. Listen, nobody did the right thing in that scenario.
And in the scenario with Corner Gas, you were the guy pulling the plug.
I did the right thing.
You did.
Well, I mean, look, I signed
it was a
on
gravy
for
train.
I signed on
gravy
for 13 episodes, and we did 107. We didn't short sheet anybody.
No.
And I didn't want to get to the point where it was like, I would rather people be asking, why did you stop doing the show, as opposed to people going, listen, why are you still doing that show? Why didn't you wrap that up? You don't want to be that guy. I've always said, I've been at house parties where they handed me my coat. It's not a good feeling.
No.
And also, listen, if you're trying to, just from a completely pragmatic point of view, and this isn't why I decided to stop doing Corner Gas, but from a completely pragmatic, strategic point of view, and I'm nothing if not a strategist. I've been planning how to get down here for a month.
Good.
It took me 7 years to get back here. That's the kind of strategist that I am. But, if you're going to try and get another gig, you want to, it's better to try and pitch your new gig when they want you at the old gig, right? As opposed to, listen, only 37 people are watching your show, and we've asked you to leave, and now you try and pitch them a new show.
So you had Hiccups in mind.
I had another show in mind.
Back of your mind. Yeah. Oh, you just wanted to do something.
I wanted to stay on TV. I like to, there's no heavy lifting. The hours are long, but, the pay is good. So, isn't this like an old folk song or something I just did? The hours are long, but the pay is good. Isn't that a thing?
Pete Seeger, I think, yeah.
Oh, is it Pete Seeger? Is it Seeger?
Yeah,
Thank
Pete
you.
Seeger.
That's my music guy.
I was thinking of Ray Stevens. I don't know.
That's Guitar Zan.
I'm usually thinking of Ray Stevens.
Ray
so that's
Stevens
not a
has gone crazy.
Has he?
Yeah.
Well, he just started off pretty nuts.
Guitar Zan. How many Ray Stevens songs can you name?
He had a song that had Arab in the...
Ahab the Arab.
Yeah, Ahab the Arab. And it was like a big hit. Everybody was okay with it.
Sure.
Sure.
He was a character.
It was a different time.
The Streak.
So I just wanted to stay in TV. That was the thing. What else am I going to do?
Well, what are you doing now? You're not in TV.
Well, but I was thinking this TV thing is,
it's got legs.
I got this. It's got legs. I can do this for a while. And so I said to them, I'm going to pitch you another show. And I went away and I thought about a number of different things. And Hiccups was, something that, talk about having legs. I thought this, when I had this notion of a children's author who isn't emotionally very sound, isn't emotionally very mature, I thought this could go a lot of ways.
And it ran for two
seasons, 26 episodes. And then CTV got bought. A whole new group of executives came in, and they hardly picked up anything. I think they picked up Flashpoint, and that was about it.
Never heard of it. Did you start Hiccups like the season after Corner Gas?
Yeah,
a year?
The idea was there should be more time in between. But then the Olympics came down the pike, right? And the CTV thought, and I understand the reasoning behind it, they said we could get a lot of eyeballs on your show if we put it right after the Olympics, like the end of the Olympics, the closing ceremony, and then your show. It's a good launching pad, which it was. It got a lot of eyeballs, but it was also, you can't get around the fact that Corner Gas was very beloved, and when you're coming off something that's beloved, it's hard for people to get over that hangover, right? And so we kind of came too close. We were too hot in the heels of Corner Gas, especially when the other show that had a Corner Gas cast member in it, Dan for Mayor, they butted the two of us up together. So it's like, hey, here they are. They're together again. That was the whole thing.
It's like putting Gilligan and the Skipper.
Yeah, two different shows, but it's a crossover, so it was, I think Hiccups would have, and I only wanted to do 3 seasons of Hiccups. That was kind of what I went in thinking 3 would be good to do. Because, if you're a creative guy, you like to create things, right? You don't want to just keep running the same thing. You want to create. And so I would have loved to have done a 3rd season. But it was just, when held up to Corner Gas, this behemoth of the ratings giant that it was, it never went under 1 million viewers, usually 1.5 million. To come along and, Hiccups was doing 500,000, that's pretty good. Pre-Corner Gas, 500,000 was a good rating for a Canadian show. Well, we ruined ourselves. Corner Gas kneecapped our ability to do anything else.
Damn, Corner Gas.
It was too successful.
If Hiccups had come along first, do you think it would have had the breakaway success that Corner Gas had?
I don't think so. Because for whatever reason, Corner Gas just touched people. It was one of those shows that, for whatever reason, it really people could relate to it, and they had a fondness for it right away.
They still do.
Even I know people who say, I didn't think that show was very funny, but I watched it every week. I just liked it.
I got one channel.
Yeah, people just, I don't know. There was people who didn't get the jokes or didn't think it was that funny, just liked it. They liked the people, and they liked the situation. And
it's a warm show.
Pleasant.
Yeah, pleasant.
Yeah, there was a lot of, it came along. It was actually like if you hold it up to what was on TV at the time, there was a lot of dark, shows trying to be edgy and hip and dark and everything. And our show was not that. It had no agenda, and it was very bright, and it was colorful and kind of fun and whimsical, and there was no arc. Every episode ended where it started, and it was a pleasant, in a way, it was a throwback. But it was also, it was like some of the U.S. critics called it subtly subversive. I always liked that.
Yeah, and you still, you're big on Twitter. Most of the tweets that you get from fans are huge Corner Gas fans, right?
Yeah.
It's probably, I don't know the numbers, 10-1 for Corner Gas over your Hiccups tweets?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, 10-1, probably more so.
Are they like your kids? I don't want to play a favorite. Or, no, it was Corner Gas.
No, it's tough to pick to pick a favorite between the two. Corner Gas, I love Corner Gas, and it changed my life, and it was such a blessing. And there's no, I can't heap enough praise on Corner Gas. So to me, it's kind of like that's a given almost. And I feel like I kind of want to shift attention to Hiccups. Because Corner Gas doesn't need it, that's all. Not that I don't like Corner Gas or don't have fondness for Corner Gas. I love Corner Gas, and I'm very, very proud of it, and I love everything about it. I watch old reruns because it comes on like 90 times a day.
Yeah.
I'm like Gilligan, right? I am Gilligan. I'm the new Gilligan. I'm a heavier, older Gilligan. So it doesn't need. I feel like Hiccups is kind of like this, the stepchild who doesn't. It's like it's got the one game leg. It didn't get the attention or whatever. And I want to say,
It'll come into its own.
because in Playback magazine, industry magazine for show types, they had a thing. Nancy just pointed out. She said, "Hey, look at this." They had a listing of the top 5 Canadian shows of all time on the Comedy Network. So number 1 is Corner Gas. Number 2 is Hiccups.
There you go.
And then everything else came after that. So I kind of want to say to people, no, you see, Hiccups was good too. But the nice thing is Hiccups has a lot of, and like you say, it's going to come into its own. When I do live shows, more and more now, I have people coming up to me and talking to me about Hiccups.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So it's there was just a Corner Gas hangover.
You say that maybe it came along too soon after Corner Gas, but I think any time it would have been too soon because, as you say, Corner Gas runs 90 times a day. People might think it's still on or still being produced.
Some people do, yeah. Some people are wondering when that 7th season is going to happen.
Hey, we're talking with Brent Butt on What's So Funny, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Guy McPherson, and Brent back after a 7-year absence. He just finished wrapping a movie. Yeah,
I'm a movie star now.
You're a movie star.
It's a whole new phase of my life. Did you see the big DeLorean I pulled up in? I was trying to think of a fancy car. That's all I could come up with.
It's
DeLorean.
Canadian, though.
No
Canadian?
clue. What?
Why are you going to make things up?
He's from New Brunswick. A DeLorean. It's Canadian, yeah.
Really?
Did you know that?
No idea.
No, I didn't know
John
that.
DeLorean?
I think you're thinking of Michael J. Fox, who was in a movie with a DeLorean.
Oh, that's
Yes, he's Canadian.
Okay, he's Canadian.
But you can't associate everything else.
Everything's connected to it.
The clock tower.
Just finished.
Canadian invention.
It is.
No clue.
Time travel.
Feature film.
Yes.
Starring, written by, produced maybe, I'm
Yep.
guessing.
Yes.
Not directed by Brent Butt.
That was one of my good moves as a producer, was to hire somebody who's directed a picture before.
Yeah. Friend of my wife.
So yeah, that's the thing. It's been a whole new. This has been an adventure. I wrote this movie like 4 years ago or something. I didn't realize. I'm bad with chronology. Like I didn't know it was 7 years. I thought we did this 2 years ago. You said it was 7 years.
7 years.
Really?
Yeah.
I have no sense of chronology, and I came up to Laura Lightbound, who's business affairs and the producer on the movie. She works for Sparrow, my company, and I said to her, "When did I first submit that first draft of them? When did I finish that first draft?"
A couple weeks ago, maybe?
It was like 3.5 years ago, she said. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I wrote this movie a long time ago, and it's tricky to get a movie made. And this is the first movie that my company has produced. It's always been TV up to now.
And so this is like for theater you're talking?
Yeah, theatrical moving picture show.
Wow.
And it's been an amazing experience. We just finished filming a couple weeks ago. And now I'm scheduled to see the first edit, the build that the editor does, because the movies are always, it's first built by an editor, on Tuesday.
Exciting.
Very exciting. I won't have any music to it or anything like that, but still.
So what? The genre of this is like a murder mystery comedy. Is that right? Or a crime comedy?
Yeah, I've been calling it a comedic mystery.
I would
comedic mystery thriller. I like to smush 3 genres together. It's a comedic mystery thriller. But it was important to me that I didn't want to make this a zany, wacky, comedy. Wah, like he's falling over stuff and everything. I wanted it to be very true to the genre of the murder mystery, because I'm a big fan of detective movies and murder mysteries in general. It's a fun movie to watch.
I was wondering if you'd have to have help writing it, but obviously if you read a lot or see a lot of these movies, you're thinking that way because everything has to fall into place, right?
Yeah,
it can't just be snappy dialogue. You have to have things make sense.
Yeah, it does. It has to make sense, and it has to be. I subscribe to the notion of fair play. The people who created Ellery Queen, these 2 guys who wrote the early Ellery Queen novels, they came up with what they called fair play, and that was the notion being that you can't just spring something on the reader to solve the mystery at the end that they didn't have. to be fair to the reader, all the information to solve the crime should be somewhere in there.
Right.
It can be hidden or disguised or whatever, but all the information has to be there, available to the reader, so that they could potentially solve the crime if they're smart enough. And that was fair play to them. And so I always liked that idea. And all your best crime novels have that. And but it's tricky, like you said. I'd never written something like this before. So you have to keep going back and laying pipe and planting clues. And you decide, I need to do this. But so if I'm going to do this, I have to, be fair with the reader. I have to somehow plant this clue earlier on. And so it was an amazing experience, and I hired my buddy Joel Wamsley, stand-up comic, to be the story supervisor. Because my fear was, the thing about Joel is he knows all the scams. He's one of these guys. He knows like the names of all. Oh, that's the Susquehanna Shugamidoo. He knows all the flim-flams, from years gone by. He likes grifters. He's fascinated by grifters and hustles.
He is a grifter.
And close-up magic and all this stuff.
Yeah,
anything that, kind of... He's deceptive. Let's be honest. He's shifty, good. No, so I said to him, I want you to read this, and see if it makes sense to you. Because my big fear was... I would write it, we'd shoot it, and then somebody would go, but if he had just made this phone call, he would know. Oh, of course, that would be my
I would
nightmare.
think a lot of eyes had to see this script.
Well, to me, I wanted somebody who'd see through things. Like, generally speaking, when you're watching a movie with Joel, he's that guy. He's the guy who goes, well, if he said he was going to be there, he could have just done this and that, and the whole movie falls apart. Right? He's the guy who can find the hole in it.
It's a perfect job for him.
So I hired him to be, I can't remember what credit we gave him, but like story consultant or whatever, right? Script consultant. And so it all held water as far as he could tell, and nobody else came up to me and said otherwise. So.
And I heard it read very funny, too.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback I got from the script was fantastic. From people who have no reason to blow smoke up my patoot, as my mother would say, language. up my skirt, right? People who I'm coming to for money, right, to finance the film, are going, well, I don't want to give you a bunch of money, but it is a good script. I'll give you that. It's like begrudgingly they're going, well, had me laughing a lot, and it really hauled me along. And so I got good feedback even from the crew guys who were saying, normally, like our transport guy, he said, I usually just flip through the script and kind of with a highlighter in any type of vehicle that I need to find for the vehicle. That's what I do. He said, I didn't do that with this. He said, I just kept reading it. I read the whole thing the whole way through. And he said it was really engaging. So I got good feedback from it.
That's great. I'm looking forward to it, but it's going to be a while, isn't it, before it hits the screens?
Yeah, like a year probably.
Yeah. We're
going to try and get it in TIFF, which is in, September.
That's a big one. Oh, okay, September, yeah.
But that's usually predates any theatrical release. So it could be, it could be just a year from now. It could be like winter of 2013. It could be beyond that.
Yeah.
Spring of 2014.
And the cast, I'm intrigued by, like, you have a few American actors in there.
Yeah.
And
they're good at show business. Those guys?
Yeah.
In the USA?
It's a good move on your part. Was that just a casting, or did you reach out to them? Did you know any of them? How did that work?
I knew David Koechner.
From?
We just did some live stuff together years ago. He was doing a show with Dave Allen. They did The Naked Trucker and T-Bone. They did this live thing. Dave Allen played this trucker who was very spiritual and philosophical, and he liked to drive his truck naked. And he picked up this hitchhiker who's a little kind of simple-minded but has his own kind of backward wisdom, named T-Bone, who had a bit of a crazy life. And so they did this. So the notion is T-Bone now rides with the naked trucker, and they're both musical, and they did this musical comedy thing called The Naked Trucker. So I did some live shows with them, and it's not like we were old pals or anything, but I did these shows with him, and we got along, and so I just reached out to him actually via Twitter. I said, hey, I'm doing this movie, and he said, I would love to work with you again. I had a great time working with you. So I said, well, I'll send it to your agent in Hollywood. Do it all proper, like.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to backdoor and get you into my little shooting with a Casio in my backyard, right?
Yeah.
It's all in the up and up, so I'll send it to your agent. And the agent liked it, recommended it to him, and he wanted to do it. And so...
That's great.
Yeah, so... And then... With Amy Smart, who came on to play kind of the damsel in distress, who comes looking for help for my character at the beginning of the movie.
And you are a private eye?
Well, listen. Am I a private eye?
Oh, okay.
So, anyway, the way these things work, there's always a list of people that the distributors and the money people would approve of. They give you a list of people that they would approve of. And Amy Smart's name was on there, and she's one of those people. Like, the character has to have a certain aesthetic. She has to, when she walks in my character's door, he's got to be on his heels right away, simply because of how attractive she is.
Right.
And I always kind of envisioned a Lauren Bacall type, because Lauren Bacall I always thought was very, very beautiful, but she didn't look like anybody else. She was completely. Lauren Bacall had a unique look. Mm-hmm. And when I thought of Amy Smart, it was that same thing. There's nobody that looks like Amy Smart. She's stunningly beautiful, but she's also, she's got a unique look. And anyway, we just started the process, started talking, and, that's kind of how that came together.
There
But,
you go.
The notion was, I've always wanted to make Canadian movies that play around the world. I don't want to make Canadian movies that just play in Canada. I want to stay in Canada. That's why my company's called Sparrow Media. It's a sparrow is a bird who doesn't need to fly south, right? That's the impetus behind it. But I want to market to the world. And so having a couple people who've been in Hollywood movies really helps you with foreign sales. It helps you with sales outside of Canada. And, there's two people right away, and David Cubitt, who happens to live here. I was always a fan of him watching Medium all the time. He's a Vancouver dude,
Oh, is he?
And so it was actually my wife who one day came home. Nancy doesn't know anything about the movie. She didn't read the script. Because she's a fan of murder mysteries too. She just wants to watch it. So she said it was the most difficult thing she's ever done is to not read this script.
But she has a part in it, doesn't she?
So she read her scene only.
Yeah.
But she came home one day because we were trying to think who to cast for this character, and she said, "I saw David Cubitt today. He sounds like that. Wouldn't he fit that character you're talking about?" I said, "He would be perfect." So yeah, we ended up getting a great cast, and Dustin Milligan and Kirsten Prout, and fantastic. Like, as soon as we cast Kirsten Prout, my Twitter feed lit up. She's got like a huge,
I don't know her.
She's because you and I are people of a generation,
right?
She's a young, attractive, hot Hollywood kid. Well, she's a Canadian, but she's she's got a big following. So it was like that was just a boon. We cast her because she was a fantastic actor, did a great read and everything, and she came highly recommended, and then suddenly, boom. She's got somebody with a giant fan base as well. So,
yeah, that's going to be it's going to be good. I mean, like when Corner Gas came on, the look of it was great. The production qualities on Canadian TV, I'd never seen anything like that. And now in the theaters,
no clue. And Carl Basai directed it. He's an amazing visual aggregator. That's what I call him. We were shooting with two cameras all the time, always on the move. So, because to me, I wanted this to be I didn't want this to be a long TV show. I want this to be theatrical. This has to be.
Yeah, and
I had to hire a director who was a movie guy, a guy who made movies. And that's what Carl does. And he brings, him and Jan Kieser, who's the cinematographer on the movie, just made a look that I was blown away just watching dailies. Raw data, it's not even color corrected or anything. I was blown away by the look of this movie. Oh, wow. It really feels like a movie. That's, to me, I don't know what I was expecting, but every day I would get giddy. I would watch the dailies and I'd go, oh my God, it looks like a movie. We're making a movie.
But you're just a TV guy. Yeah. So how different was it? Like you say, it was unlike anything you've done before. What is the big difference?
Well, the financing structure is different, and the way it's crewed up is different and everything. But for me, the biggest difference was I'm because of the way the story is, you're kind of following this guy through this case. And so as a result, I'm in almost every scene. I think there's 3 scenes in the movie that my giant wide face isn't staring back out at you, right?
On a big screen.
So if you're not a fan of me, you're going to have it. Well, if you don't like me, you're going to have a hard time with this movie because I'm in it a lot. But so, with TV, I'm always very much in charge of what we're gathering visually. Even, I work with other directors who are directing the episodes, but I see what the shots are. And we're shooting with one camera, and I look at we have the stand-ins during the lighting, and I see what the shot is, and I discuss it with the director. I'm very on top of it all. Well, the way we did this movie, we were shooting 2 cameras all the time because we only had 20 days to shoot this
quick.
movie, right? So we shot with 2 cameras, and Carl is a real run-and-gun guy, and he knows what he needs to get. And we had meetings ahead of time. There's certain gags in the show that I really feel need to be a certain way. And so I gave him a heads up about certain things, and the rest of it was just like, do what you do, make this movie. So because I'm in front of the camera and the camera's moving and we're stopping and starting and there's 2 cameras going, I had a real difficult time for the first couple of days because I didn't know what we were getting. And then we had a technical problem where I couldn't get dailies for 2 days. So for the first 4 days, I didn't know what we were getting, and I've never been in that situation before. It was real, and this is hugely important to me. It's my first movie, and there's a lot of money and a lot of time and effort invested in this. And, do I get to do another movie again? A lot is riding on this. And for the first 4 days, I've always been a bit of a control freak when it comes to these things, and I don't know what we're getting.
Could Carl see?
Yeah, Carl could see, and he was very happy, and the cinematographer was happy. But especially when you're shooting in comedy, comedy is delicate. There's a million reasons for a joke not to work. And people who aren't in the business of doing comedy sometimes don't realize how delicate it is, and they can overlook. And sometimes they think you're being precious about something, but it's really, that's the difference between a joke working or not working, or working well or working great. And there I was kind of blind for 4 days. And then when we got the technical problem solved and I was able to see the dailies, it was like, the weight lifted off. And plus, I saw what Carl was doing now, technically, with the 2 cameras running and gunning. Now I understood how he was getting the shots that he was getting. So now when I'm on the floor, I can understand what we were getting better. And but honestly, I couldn't believe how good it looked.
That's a lot for you to think about when you also have to memorize lines and emote.
Yeah, well, it helps. It helps if you've written the script. That helps. But it's also hard too, because sometimes I'm remembering old drafts. I'm going off and I'm saying 8 lines that I cut a year ago, right? So that can be tricky. But at the end of the day, and I said this to Carl when we were shooting, because at one point I said, I don't know what we're getting here, and he said, you just have to forget that the camera's there and do this. I said, I can't. I'm never going to win an Oscar. That's not the kind of actor I am. I swear to God. I act like an editor. That's what I act the way an editor would want me to act. Because at the end of the day, I got to edit the thing. So,
what does that mean?
When I'm acting, I'm thinking about where my hand is so that the continuity of the shot. If I wanted, I had my hand over here. I didn't turn until that time. When she says that word, I'm not very present for you as an actor. If we're doing a scene,
but your hands are in the right place.
But yes, I'm great for continuity. But the other thing about this movie is that it really, this is more acting than I've ever done. Like, there are levels to this. Like, there's levels of like legitimate danger in this movie. There's some people want to hurt me. I'm in trouble. There's I'm scared. I'm playing things I've never played before. I pushed myself as an actor in this.
And would Carl, beside the director, stop you and say, try it this way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I said to him, and I often say, when I'm working with a new director, and I've only worked with Carl a couple of times, but he shot a couple episodes of Hiccups, 3 episodes, I think, of Hiccups. That's the only experience I had with him, because he hadn't done any half-hour comedy. So I kind of, helped show him the ropes of half-hour comedy. Now he was showing me how to make a movie, kind of thing. But whenever I work with a director for the first time, or somebody I haven't worked with a lot, I always say to him, watch that I don't get cartoony. Because I have a tendency, I'll get cartoony on you. If the scene's going along, I might get a little big. I might get a little, my eyes will get googly, and it'll stop being real. So just watch for the cartoony. So every now and then he'll come up and he would say, as most directors will when they work with me, they'll go, it's a little cartoony.
Rein it in. Yeah, but you've done some serious acting. You were the motel clerk in Duets.
That was the first time. That's when I came up with the term cartoony.
Oh,
because
really?
Bruce Paltrow We rehearsed the
Stead.
scene. Gwyneth Stead. We rehearsed the scene. Paul Giamatti, Andre Brower, and myself. Right. We rehearsed the scene for the camera, and then so now here comes Bruce, the director, with the notes, and he says to Andre, "That was great, but you gotta get in sooner, right? Because we're waiting forever for you to cross this lobby. You got to haul him in, come in with a better pace." He says to Paul Giamatti, "Remember, your character's been on the road for 3 days now. You are exhausted and tired. We need to see that, right?" And he looked at me and he just kind of thought for a second. He just went, "Less cartoony."
How did you take that?
I'd give him less cartoony. I do what I'm told.
Yeah. And then you were the corner on X-Files?
Yeah, where I had to do a bit of a Southern accent.
Really?
The director was from the South, and he said to me, I guess the episode took place in the South, and I did the scene. He said, "That was a good scene. Could you do it with a bit of a Southern accent?" He said, "Can you do a Southern accent?" I said, "How about you tell me if I can do a Southern accent? I'll do what I think is a Southern accent. You tell me."
How'd it go?
Well, I got the gig, so I've always been pretty good with accents.
You are doing a Southern Canadian accent.
Southern Canadian?
Yeah. We're all Southerners here.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, we're talking with Brent Butt. The show's What's So Funny on CFRO 100.5 FM. And I'm Guy McPherson. Brent has a new movie coming out, No Clue. Next year, look for that at a theater near you. What I liked, about the end of Hiccups was that you have come back a little bit more into the comedy community, and I see you around town at the odd weekly
Popping
room.
up, doing sets,
Yeah.
trying new bits.
It's great. And how do you like coming back to that?
I love it. I mean, that's something that I really missed. And whenever we were, on hiatus from a show and a break in between seasons, I would always do stand-up. But it was, a lot of hitting the road and doing theater shows and stuff. But what I really missed was hanging out with the guys, popping up, trying new bits. And, that's so vital. People don't understand how, if you don't have those outlets where you can just get up and kind of work it out and stay sharp, I mean, it just dies. It really just withers on the vine. And
so did it wither on the vine with you?
it was withering. Like I had this, prior to Corner Gas coming along, I'd been doing stand-up, 15, 16 years or something at that point. And I had amassed a lot of material. And so I could coast on that for a long time. And it was, good, solid material that always did well with crowds, and I knew how to do it. And it was the safety thing. But when I was at the Urban Well on a regular basis prior to Corner Gas, I was there every week at this one gig with the same crowd. I could try new bits. There were other gigs around town I could pop up, or I could just jump up at a little club somewhere and do a set. I was always doing that. I was always amassing new material, and it's amazing, when you stop doing that, and when you stop doing stand-up regularly, it's like a fighter. You get the ring rust on you. You know what you're supposed to do, but it's a matter of microscopic timing. And
Timing, yeah.
You're getting, you used to slip punches, and now those punches are hitting you in the face,
And would you recognize that when you were performing, like in the moment, or was it after the fact, or did you come to realize this later?
In the moment, that's when it's really...
Because you're still getting the laughs.
Yeah, but...
Right, but you just know how they could be even better.
Yeah, you know how they could be better, or they know how hard you're working at to get those laughs, whereas before it was, all part of the ballet, all part of the way you move and talk and just what you do up there.
Effortless.
It was much more effortless because you're in there doing it all the time. It's, you can equate it to anything in that regard. If you're doing something regularly on a regular basis, especially something that requires a certain level of skill or timing or something, and you get away from it for a while, you lose a step.
Would you?
And I really noticed it. And it was scary.
And was it? Oh yeah. So I was going to ask if you lost a bit of confidence.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the way to put it, but I was just aware that I haven't been on top of my game. I haven't been doing enough. I've been coasting. I've been I've had a good life. I've had a good I'm getting soft when it comes to my craft.
I mean, you're lucky and smart, I guess, too, in that your material is pretty much timeless. So you had amassed all this great material that you could continue to do forever if you wanted to.
Yeah, and it was kind of by design. And then in the end of the day, that's kind of what came back to, in a way, bite me a bit. To go, it afforded me the opportunity to get lazy. And
Right.
I'm by nature a lazy dude.
That's right. We talked
And
about
so it was easy for me to say, I got a show tomorrow, but I got a lot of material that works really well. And then you see some of the young guys coming up, and you see you in them 20 years ago. Like this coming February will be 25 years since I first did stand up in a club.
Wow.
My silver anniversary, right? And you see these young guys, like Ivan Decker's doing, like he can't get out of the gig he's on fast enough to get to the next gig. And he's probably going to do different bits, at that gig. And, sometimes I see guys like that, and you can really see the hunger that you used to have. And it's really that hunger that you need to, it'd be great if you played Eye of the Tiger under this. I don't know what it costs to license that music.
Too much.
But to
Not
get
in the budget.
some kind of knockoff, maybe? Can you get like a local?
You had Ivan Decker open for you at the River Rock a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just perfect. I mean, Ivan's one of my favorite young comics, and I would see him, and I would always think, because Seinfeld comes to town every couple of years, and he always has the same opener who's worked with him for a long time, and it's like Ivan could do that job.
Yeah.
He would do amazing. And so, how did it go over at the big theater, the
Good.
River Rock?
He did well.
Yeah.
And I made sure I was watching from the side because I was like, I said to Nancy, I want him to do well. I don't want him to do too well,
Right.
But it was great. He did a great job and warmed the crowd up, and I got to go out, and everybody was on board. It was a good night.
Yeah.
And I tried, I had put together a lot of new stuff. Just before starting to film No Clue, I did 2 theater shows, one in Calgary and one in Edmonton, and I really worked at putting together a lot of new material together. And the material goes well. The hardest part is just remembering the different bits that you got to do, right? That's the hardest part about new stuff. So what I did is I actually put the bullet points. You kind of give people who don't know, stand-ups do a set list, and you just kind of, it's like bullet points. You get each of your bits has a title, basically, right? Yeah. Drunk unicorn. I'll do that bit. 28 egg yolks. So that's what I would do. And I'd never had to do this before, but because this was all new stuff, I put those sheets up on like the monitors in front of the stage at the theaters in Calgary and Edmonton, just so I could remember what bits to do.
Like Joan Rivers.
Is that what she does?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Bill Maher.
But yeah, like if you're trying to introduce a new hour of stuff and you haven't been able to work it all out, like all the bits,
right?
But knowing where and when to do them is the tricky part. But anyway, so I was able to do this stuff at the River Rock here, and Justin, my live booking agent, came up to me after the show and said, "I think that was 75% stuff I'd never heard before."
Wow,
which is good.
It is good. Although I've said, and I tell everybody that you're one of the few guys that I could see, and I have seen, from your days at the Well, doing the same bits. Every week for years. I mean, you didn't do the same bits every week for years. I want to point that out.
But there was runs when I was.
No, you had a lot of material. But the thing is, I could hear you do the same bits, and unlike some comics, it's fresh to me every time because of your natural delivery and natural sense of humor.
In the movie No Clue, there's a lot of homages, and there's a nice homage to the Urban Well in the movie.
Really? So
yeah, in some ways it's a love letter to Vancouver. Somebody described it to me as that. They said, it's a real love letter to Vancouver, because Vancouver plays Vancouver in the movie. And that was another one thing I liked when the crew was coming up to me and going, "So what city is it supposed to be?" And I would say, "It's Vancouver." And they were thrilled because they never get to, they always got to hide it and make it, it's Portland or whatever. So, but anyway, there's a nice, when you watch it, you'll see the homage I'm talking about.
Oh, great.
And, there's a lot of little homages. Also, there's homages to different detective movies and murder mysteries and stuff like that.
Manhattan Murder Mystery. Did you like that one?
it's funny because I just wanted to go back. I was just saying to Nancy the other day, I want to watch that again.
Woody
Because I
Allen.
didn't enjoy it that much.
Right.
But I think because I expected it to be funnier, and it was more of a murder mystery. So now I want to go back and watch it again. Did you like it?
I liked it, but I'm a huge Woody Allen fan. And that was near the end of the movies that I liked almost all of. More recently, there are some that I still have never seen and don't want to see. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. But I only saw it once.
Well, it's kind of from what I remember of it. It was, it's a legitimate kind of, there's a murder and there's a real kind of mystery to it all.
Yeah, and the humor is Woody Allen being Woody Allen.
Yeah, and that's kind of what No Clue is. It's a real. I wanted to write it so that if it wasn't funny, it would still work as a murder mystery. Like you could take all the humor out of it, and it would still be a thrilling, compelling mystery. And then you just kind of add the flavor of humor to it because the main character is in over his head. This is a bigger case than he thought it was going to be, and he's maybe not good enough to do it. So that's kind of where the humor is, and plus he's glib. He's comes up. He's a glib character, says funny things off the cuff. So, but it's not, like I said, it's not zany or wacky. It's a real gritty. There's real danger going on. It's a dark movie in some ways. It's a homage to film noir.
That's cool. And so going back to your stand-up, when you did go back up on stage and you realized, I've not lost it, but I've gotten soft, right? And now you're going into these rooms where people know Brent Butt is here. Oh, this is going to be amazing. And you're trying out your new stuff. How did that go? Were you a little trepidatious?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's the exact word I would use. Trepidatious. You're not scared. You've done this a million times. But this particular, you're not as familiar with this material as you are with all this other golden stuff that you've been coasting on for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So, you're a little trepidatious, but at the same time, it's a good feeling. It's a good trepidatious because it makes you much more present, when you got to be there mentally because you're in a way, you're kind of, you're finding your path with this new material in front of these people. So you're very, very present. And I've always been a guy who is funnier on stage in front of a crowd than I am at home at 2 p.m. with my notepad trying to write a bit. You can come up with some funny stuff, but I'm always better if you get me up in front of people with a microphone in my hand. That's where all my best lines ultimately come from. And so that's kind of where I found myself. It's kind of like the only difference is where I would get up in front of a small audience somewhere in a club on a Wednesday night in front of 27 people to try out the new bits. Instead, it's 1,000 people who've paid a lot of money to come into the theater. So it's a bit of a different, you put a little more pressure on yourself. But essentially, I was hammering this out in front of these people.
And when you did get, how much more new material?
If I sat down and comprised a set list of all the new bits that I'm like, what I would say are new bits that I'm working on now, it would be at least an hour.
And then you've forgotten half of your old bits. I saw you in Victoria, did a great bit that I liked, and then I went up to you after and said, "You forgot this line." You went, "Oh, right."
Yeah, that's, you get out of the practice of doing a bit and you drop a line. There's too many lines. That's my thing. I have a million tags.
That's right.
Somebody said to me, "You don't write new jokes, you just write tags on old jokes." So your one joke becomes 22 minutes long,
And everyone has their own favorite tag, so if you miss that, you missed the joke. But it was great seeing you, Victoria. And then you did a nasty show because, when you think of nasty comedy,
I'm your guy.
Brent Butt.
I'm your go-to.
Get him on.
Street-born killer.
Yeah, that was fun, though.
It was fun. People look at me, or especially people who only got to know me via primetime television. I'm like the squeaky clean guy, and it's kind of weird to me because I never told anybody I was a clean comic. I just usually work clean.
Yeah.
But not always.
Not always. You throw in the odd word.
If I want to talk about sex, I'll talk about sex. It's just usually.
But you write what you know.
Exactly. That's one of my old bits. Yeah. See, you're throwing up all my old bits. But it's just not the way my mind works. I'm usually playing with the language a bit or something like that. Or that's kind of the fun part for me. And as a result, I worked clean a lot, and then I did network television. And somewhere along the line, I would start seeing ads for my show going, family friendly, like I'm Raffi, right? Somewhere I became Raffi. And I would go to these theater shows, and in my heart, I'm a greasy nightclub comic, and I would see somebody's brought their 11-year-old sitting in the front row.
Yeah.
And I would go, well, maybe then I can't do the premature ejaculation bit I was thinking of doing.
Right.
And then it kind of snowballs. Then you start working even more clean, and, So now I'm thinking of doing I'm thinking of doing a tour just called The Blue Bits. And it's like, look, don't bring your kid to this. This is going to be very adult-oriented stuff. And just put together, an hour of, filthier stuff.
Disgusting.
That's still very funny. I wouldn't do it at the sake of being funny, because they're not mutually exclusive. It's weird. Like I often have people come up to me now and they say, I like you because I've always felt you don't have to be dirty to be funny. And I would say you don't, but you don't have to be clean to be funny either.
That's right.
Just be funny to be funny. They're not exclusive.
Last time I wrote about Brian Regan, and I'd written about him a few times. I told him when I interviewed him on the phone, I'm not going to mention once that you're clean this time, because I'm sick of hearing about that, and I don't like that people will only like him for that reason. No, he's just hilarious, period.
Yeah, he's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I look at it. It's like, don't come see me because, don't get off ChristianMingle.com and then come to my show. Like, don't lump me in with ChristianMingle.com. That's all.
Oh, right. Alienating Christian Mingle. Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but every time I see ChristianMingle.com, I giggle. When that ad comes, I don't know why is that funny to me? Christians got a date. Christians get lonely.
He's rebranding himself.
ChristianMingle.com.
Hey, in the minutes left, Corner Gas, did you start the portmanteau craze? I mean, because now everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it. I don't know if I started it.
Well, that staycation thing, right?
It was just that one took root, but I was always a guy who did that. I always liked to do that. I know,
yeah.
If two words if portions of two words had a similar sounding, especially vowel sounds, I would usually mush them together.
Yeah, and funny, and now that's everyone does that.
Yeah, staycation was the one that really, and there's people who, so either I came up with staycation or another guy did. There's conflicting reports.
Oh, really?
And I'm happy to let it be the other guy, because people don't like staycation, right? They're sick of it. They want to beat the snot out of whoever came up with staycation. Right. So, yeah. So
you prefer the Style-Umfort.
Style-Umfort? See, that one didn't work. That didn't roll off the tongue as well as the staycation.
What was your best one ever?
Well, I think probably staycation was the best one ever, because it's the one that took root.
Did you do chillax? Was that you?
No, I wouldn't. And if it had, I would be saying no. No, I did not come up with chillax.
You also said, and I need to apologize to you, because years ago, Corner Gas days, not that long ago, but, in showbiz terms, years ago, I saw you at Burrard Street at the CTV complex thing. And I never do this to anybody, but for some reason, you brought it out of me. You were walking by, and I just socked you in the shoulder. Say, hey, Brent. And then later, you told me, but you didn't mention me, and I'd forgotten that I had done it. But I remembered after. You said, yeah, you hate it when people come up to you and slap you, and then you just...
Slap you on the back. That's what.
Yeah. So then,
but I know you.
I felt guilty.
No, it's different. I know you.
Okay.
You can come up and give me a smack, right?
And I don't pack a powerful punch anyway.
It's the total strangers that you don't even see coming that start the conversation by blasting you in the back with their giant ham hock of a hand, right? Blow the wind out of you. And expect you to be in a terrific mood when you turn around.
Yeah.
They expect you not to punch them in the neck like you're fighting to not do, right? Your instinct, every animal instinct I have, is to just wail around and crush their Adam's apple and go, now we're even, as they're sucking on wind.
But you can't do that.
You can't do that. You got to go, hey, you're a big fan, are you? Terrific. Do you start a lot of conversations by slapping a guy in the back?
The podcast, the Buttcast, the Butt Pod.
The Butt Pod.
You did one episode.
Yeah, the sampler is up right
Liked
now.
it. You and Peter Kalamis, and then nothing. It was back in August.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to do one as a sampler. And then I knew I was going into a production on the movie, and I wasn't going to be doing it. So I thought I'd put one of these up to get people's input. Come to my website, tell me what you think. And I've got some ideas from people. And, I mean, generally, I've always wanted to be simple. I always wanted to be two funny guys sitting down talking. That's the idea. Half hour long. I don't want it to be one of these, like this, rambly nightmare that we're in the midst of. The death grip of time that we'll never get back. But that'd be a good name for an album, actually. Rambly Nightmare. So I put it up my site, and so I've got some good feedback from people, some interesting ideas, some of which I might incorporate.
So there will be more.
There will be more, definitely. I'm going to take some of this December and record, hopefully, a bunch. I don't know, a dozen, and then start releasing them every week, every couple of weeks, whatever the market demands. I'm a market-based.
Always thinking of the bottom line.
Yeah,
Brent Butt.
I'm like, I couldn't think of who's the politician with the crazy eyebrows. The guy who's always running in the States for, the little guy.
Dukakis?
No, although he did have some crazy eyebrows.
He did have crazy eyebrows.
Ron Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is the market with that guy.
Yeah.
It all comes down to let the market dictate whether people put poison and chemicals in the food.
And so December.
I'm great with my references, aren't I? I'm at the top. See, this is what I mean about being rusty. I would have had Ron Paul if this was my 20th podcast in a row. If I had come on 80 radio shows in a row, I would have had Ron Paul right there.
Well, you don't have to wait 7 years before you come back again, and then you'll be quicker. Christmas in the Butt household. What's that like? Is it a big celebration? Do everyone have a turkey on a string around their neck? Well, there's another Brent Butt joke. You see?
See, you could just do nothing but bring up my material for the hour, and that would be entertaining to me as well. I'd also make notes because some of them I forget.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, like Nancy grew up here. Her family's here. We would get together with her family.
Nancy Robertson.
Her family
I don't think
friends.
we mentioned her last name.
Nancy Robertson, star of Stage and Screen.
Yes.
Who is now my betrothed. 7 years wed.
Wow.
And,
that's why you haven't been back.
Yeah,
7 years.
I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
And then we got chores around the house. Well, that is one of the things. Like when you're starting out as a young comic, you hate your apartment, right? It's like a squalor. There's rats, and you can't get out of your place fast enough. And then so you're out at the clubs. Where else are you going to go? Or you're on the road eking out a meager existence because you don't want to go back to your horrible hovel. And then, if you get any modicum of success, now you got a nice place to live.
Who wants to leave?
Who wants to leave?
Yeah.
I've spent, 20 years in horrible places.
You got your man cave. You're set.
Yeah.
So, yes, you have a big family to do at
Well,
Christmas.
she doesn't come from a big family, so we generally get together with a family, and it's, like 6 of us or 8, depending who's kind of around. And normally, Christmas Eve has been the bigger social thing with Nancy and her family and friends. Like, it's kind of like her family and friends and everybody kind of from this big social group get together at somebody's house on Christmas Eve. And then Christmas we do just with the family. So
Nice.
Christmas Eve has always been kind of a bigger thing.
Well, I hope you have a good one. Our time is up, Brent, but, we're going to edit maybe half of this out. Just make it a tight 30.
It's a fantastic move. But edit it so that Ron Paul is right there.
Yeah, there will be no pause.
Edit out that Dukakis bit.
But I was quick to come up with the guy with eyebrows.
I could have quickly came up with the guy who was wrong. I could have quickly... Anybody can come up with the wrong name quickly.
Well, all I had to go with was the eyebrows. A politician. Come on. All right.
You
Brent,
crawled into the Wayback Machine for the Dukakis
I did.
reference.
Brent, thanks.
I like that the Wayback Machine is an old reference.
From the Flintstones.
Oh, I thought it was from the...
Wasn't it?
the guy with the eyebrows. From the other thing. Oh, just tell people to look it up.
Look it up. Brent Butt, thanks. Next week, our guest will be your old friend, Richard Lett.
Richard Lett's in town.
He will be next week. And 2 weeks, Nate Bargatze. Good night.